Hi, folks. As always, a pleasure connecting with you and speaking with you on multifarious topics, primarily to do with life and careers. And if that's something which is of interest to you, probably should consider subscribing to this channel. A very interesting and very brief podcast about the power of communication and why communication skills are probably the most important one to make a great career. I want to quickly talk about it. I know this could be probably there's enough has been spoken about this topic, but still I thought the emphasis is on how well or how critical a role communication skills play in the overall scheme of things as far as a career is concerned. Competency or communication, which is important or which is more important, is a question which is often asked in deciding careers or career trajectories of people. And you might think that competency is much more important, and yeah, all of us tend to think that as long as you have merit, as long as your competency, as long as you are good at delivering at work, I think that is more than enough, and the rest of the skills really don't matter, of course. Once you do your work and you probably speak to your boss in your performance appraisal, then if everything is okay, you are going to get that well-deserved hike or promotion periodically. Is that the way things work? You have to really think about it. And if you really look back at your career till date, probably in the past 5 or 10 years, wherever you are in your career, you'll very clearly see that despite your best of competencies, best of skills, best of the work you've delivered at the workplace, you probably haven't grown as much as you should have, whereas somebody who probably was 20% or 30% less than you in terms of all the competency canvases has really grown very fast. What would be the single difference? I think the single difference is the ability to communicate, the ability to articulate, ability to put forth the person's views, everything boiling down to the fact that the person has been a good communicator. Oftentimes communication is very misinterpreted. When we say you need to have good communication skills, it is immediately related to as someone who has got a very powerful vocabulary. You should have a flamboyant style of delivery, excellent language, excellent rhetoric and stuff like that. No, not really at all. What we mean by communication skills is very clearly articulating your views, putting forth your views, being assertive, of course, to the point of not being aggressive, being assertive, putting forth your views, making your presence felt. Executive presence is a very normal word which is used in today's corporate world, and executive presence is impossible without your ability to communicate. Imagine there are two people doing the same job and have delivered the same kind of work, and ceteris paribus, everything else is the same between two people in your team, and one person is able to articulate better where the other person is a very quiet worker. Who do you think is being noticed, or who do you think is being considered for a promotion or hike? The answer is obvious. Only the person who's articulating himself well, who's able to put forth his views well, who speaks where it matters. That is very important. In a corporate situation, in a workplace, we need to speak where it matters. When somebody assigns you a work, you should say, no, I don't have the bandwidth. I am already doing enough of work. If somebody gives you sets unreasonable delivery expectations out of you, you need to probably go back and tell them that, look, I think this is unreasonable to my competency and capability. I'm already doing so much, so this probably is more than what I can chew now. So a number of situations like this, it is an ongoing process, and in all of these things, if you're just going to stay mute, just saying that no, I'm not a great communicator, I'm not a good communicator, you probably will be a biggest victim, and people will probably even start exploiting this lack of communication in you to their own good and to your own bad. You should remember that very important. I've seen many people, I mean, when I see a lot of candidates do argue with me saying that no, I don't think communication plays a very key role in terms of career growth, in terms of compensation, in terms of roles, responsibilities, getting better, in terms of promotion and things like that. No, not at all. Irrespective of how good you are, irrespective of how competent, and irrespective of probably how deep expertise you have in an area, unless otherwise you are able to articulate the deep expertise, you're going to have the basic amount of communication to the stakeholders in the organization. It can be your boss, it can be your peers, it can be your colleagues, it can be your subordinates, it can be a brief presentation in the conference hall of your organization where all the senior management are there. In that situation, obviously you need to probably have that amount of confidence to rise up and speak your basic views, give a simple presentation about what your accomplishments are. So all this is very, very important, and to that extent I would urge each one of you to probably decide today or understand that communication is probably most important in terms of your career growth. Yes, communication is very overrated. I've seen that in my own experience. I'm sure you also seen that in your experience. Probably a person who's mediocre, who's very, very average in terms of his performance, probably is communicating better and growing, whereas somebody who's doing a much better job is not really growing so much because he lacks that kind of communication. So that itself shows that we're not in a perfect world. We're not in a perfect situation where everybody is appreciated only for what they've delivered. Unfortunately, beyond what you deliver, you are appreciated, or you are probably seen or perceived to be a better doer if you are able to talk better. That is the gist of the whole thing in today's corporate world, and this is across industries, not necessarily in IT. Yeah, IT maybe if you're in very, very large teams which are into coding and things like that. Yes, then maybe communication need not be so much necessary like a non-IT setup, manufacturing, sales, marketing and things like that. But even in IT, if you need to grow to the next level, you need to be seen as a people's person. What is the fundamental need of a people's person? It is a better communicator. What is leadership end of the day? Leadership is going to be the ability to carry number of people with you, carry teams with you, carry larger responsibilities. And for all these things, what is the most important thing? It is communication and articulation. Again and again, I keep repeating this. For God's sake, don't think when I say communication, I'm not saying you have to be the best communicator in the room. You probably have to have fascinating oratorical skills so that probably everybody is going to clap around and things like that. Not at all. What we're saying is fundamentally your ability to articulate your positions, be it technical or non-technical, or with respect to your figures, with respect to your achievements, with respect to your team's achievements, with respect to what are the shortcomings you faced, a number of things like that. So all this is very, very important. So next time if somebody is going to come and tell you that, look, communication is not very, very important in a corporate world, you really need to perform well, and end of the day only performance matter, you should actually be in a position to look back and tell them, I'm sorry, really communication is what matters. And sadly, whether we like it or not, communication matters much more than your competency. That is the whole idea of me presenting this very, very brief podcast to you. Competency, excellent. You probably are the best in the room, but unfortunately, if there is somebody one shade better than you who can speak one shade better than you, he is going to take up all the credit than you, and you probably will only be left in the dark, wondering where you went wrong. The one place you probably have gone wrong is that you probably haven't spoken up at the right place at the right time. Not just in the professional context, even in a personal context, in a societal context. Today, we are in a situation where we need to articulate our views, we need to put forth our views, and to that effect, it is very, very important that we have to develop that basic communication skills. Now, next question is, if you're going to ask me that if you feel that you're genuinely short of communication skills, and if you're going to ask me how you're going to improve your communication skills, the biggest or the best answer I have to tell you is, of course, there are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels which probably help you in every facet of communication. They help you in understanding better body language. They help you in getting more confident in communication. They tell you or tutor you as to how you have to communicate in the workplace. Udemy as a platform has got maybe tens and tens of courses as to how you can be a better communicator, how can you be an effective communicator and things like that. And if probably you are in your early part of your career and you are someone who really want to hone your communication skills, better your communication skills, obviously there is a lot of resources available on the internet, and you should probably, and a lot of this is free. I mean, Udemy courses is also very, very cheap. Maybe Udemy courses cost about I mean, they run a lot of discounts. Roughly, they cost about $8 to $10 in the Indian environment, which is damn cheap because if you're going to have a cup of coffee in Starbucks, I think it's going to be more expensive that. So invest on those kind of courses and consciously make sure that maybe in the next 3 to 5 years time you become 10 times better at communication than what you are. And believe me, that will take you places in terms of a career. People grow in the ladder in the organizations primarily not because of just competency. Besides competency, they are communicating better, they are communicating effectively. Not necessarily in a flowery way, which I keep saying, but as long as you are communicating the substance which you need to tell in terms of the core job content, in terms of what your KRAs are, what is very, very important. And of course, if you take up a leadership role, obviously you need to probably speak to a wider audience. You have to have that little bit of charisma in terms of having an appealing style of communication and things like that. So all this, I think the bottom line is that unless otherwise you are a fairly good communicator. I'm not even saying excellent communicator. Unless otherwise you are a fairly good communicator, you probably aren't going to grow as much as you should have grown in your career. Just sit back now and realize, just sit back now and introspect a little in terms of if you are genuinely short in terms of your communication skills and see how that has set you back maybe by a few years, by a couple of years, or maybe much longer time. And despite you being a wonderful performer in your area of work. So that is the importance of communication. My whole idea of putting forth this generic podcast is to probably highlight the fact that if you didn't realize that communication is very, very important, you probably are missing out a lot of things in the corporate life, corporate growth. And in fact, the ability to make more money is dependent on how good a communicator you are. End of the day, we are all working here. End of the day, we are probably giving our life and soul to our workplaces only because we are chasing some amount of money. And believe me, if you equip yourselves with better communication skills in whatever way you can, you probably will continue earning much more than what you're doing today. Thanks. I know this is a very, very generic input, but I thought it is very, very important for a whole lot of us to understand that without good communications, or even without being an average communicator, being just doing your work and just not speaking up will make you a mute person, not just in terms of the corporate world, but you'll even be muted in your own career growth and life. Thank you. I thought this is a very, very powerful and important message. If you find it useful, please share it with your friends. And as I keep saying, there are a lot of resources out there in the freeware resources on the internet to improve your communication skills. And I think YouTube itself has got hundreds and hundreds of channels where you really can become master communicators. Make use of them. I wish you a very, very wonderful career ahead. And thank you. And I'll see you soon in another podcast. Thank you.